me now welcome the next speaker, Linnar Viik. Linnar is a remarkable personality, Estonian IT scientist and entrepreneur, member of the board of European Institute of Innovation and Technology, one of the key architects of what has become known as the eStonia, and a prolific also, if you just look at what he has all written, millions of pages. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the kind introduction. This is session 4, and only thing between you and the after party is this session. I know I will reborn on my next life as a worm, as a karma death because of this, or European policymaker, which is even worse than being reborn as a worm. What I would like to do rather today is to reflect back as much as possible. It's so much said today. It's so much obvious, which is looking to face. It's screaming to face, asking about the change, and yet we are thinking whether we should do, and we are even tweeting that somebody should do, and government should consider. It's time for action, not for any longer thinking, because the reality has shifted already. I would go through today and use 3 authorities of mine and quote them, and I think their quotes are applicable also to the situation of today. When we look to the Europe, Africa, Middle East, Russia, Asia, then of course we immediately try to find ourselves and our own location of that picture and see what is different in our country, in our small location compared to the rest. One thing which has changed clearly, not only in the field of technology, but also in the regulatory and policy framework, is that Europe is one. And yet, it's not at all one. And I think the biggest hurdle for us is that we are not divided and fragmented in Europe because of technology, but despite the technology which is enabling us to be united. We are fragmented because of the policy and regulations. My first quote belongs to my daughter, a big authority for me. She's now 12, and the quote dates back when she was 4 years old, and when she tried to teach her grandfather how to play Tetris. You know the game Tetris. And grandfather did not get any grasp how to do it, so the bricks were just boop, 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 falling and pow, end game. And she said, how interesting, how little one can achieve when you don't try at all. And this is so true also about digital agenda and e-government around the world in most cases. We are just only getting to the radar screen of governments, the topic of information society. It's a small dot blinking in the corner of the attention. Next year we are going to celebrate in Estonia a couple of things. First of all, we are celebrating 20 years of free internet access to everybody as a fundamental right, which was so important at the time when we did not even know that internet becomes so important, but access to internet was at that time something which we believed would make a shift in society and shift in the center of gravity of values of society. We are also celebrating next year 17 years of internet banking, where every bank offered end users digital transactions and digital services on all services which financial services can provide. We celebrate next year 16 years of internet-based tax declaration, where average time for the company or individual to declare the taxes is less than 1 minute per one tax declaration. We are celebrating 15 years of schools online without teaching first teachers, but giving an access to children to computers, and only later on we learned how to teach teachers and what would be the content, appropriate content to be used. And we are still learning, and it's one lesson we learned. Education is a slow cycle economy. Technology is a fast cycle economy. You can't put those two things together and expect that one, I remember very well, it was CDs we were burning with educational content in mid-1990s, with the hope that they will be distributed to the schools and somebody will insert a CD to the one computer in the classroom and everybody will watch it. No. Now they have passed over the laptop generation, tablet generation. It's bring your own device. It's something which I see from my children also. They have been out living in the schools already for 3-4 generations of technology, and schools are still the same. We are celebrating next year 15 years of paperless e-government, where no paper will be printed and distributed in public administration system, because there is no need, actually. There is no point. It's a decision-making system which requires only information to be distributed from one individual to another for decision-making purposes. It's not papers, it's information. We celebrate also next year 15 years of ID card, something which everybody has and which has also a small chip on it. And the chip performs as your strong digital identity, your authentication tool. And as of this week, you might have heard, we did a very controversial move. We're offering everybody who wants on a planet Earth to obtain Estonian internet residency and to get similar tool to access all the e-government services wherever they are and whatever citizenship they have. If they have something to do with Estonia, or they want to do something with Estonia and use infrastructure of digital society of Estonia, you're welcome. Go ahead, go to the closest consulate, apply for it, and you will get it in 1 week. And don't worry, we are not going to steal the citizens from the rest of the countries. We are limiting it with a 10 million potential additional inhabitants or residents. The country of 1 million can't really make itself too big. 10 million is enough. And next year, we're also celebrating 10 years of internet elections. All those things which I'm listing now have been said to us that it's not possible to do. It's not possible to take computers to the school. It's not possible to give a free access to internet to people. It's not possible to vote over the internet. It's not possible and it's not secure. It's not good at all to make digital banking services available to people. And we are fine with the fact that it's not possible for the rest of the world, because we are not doing it because of the rest of the world, but because of us. We can't run a country in 21st century if we're using the tools of the 19th century. We can't afford. We are not sitting on top of the oil. Only thing we have is a tiny piece of brains in the head of people, and we need to value those. My second quote goes to my son, who is 15 years old and also a big authority for me. And when he was 3 years old, we went to our winter holiday times to the mountain skiing. And, well, now if I remember, it was called Bamsellillabacken in Sweden, really a small hill. And when the escalator took us up, then reality bite, because there was no way down with an escalator any longer. You had to go down on your skis. And then he said, thing which I still remember, I was nervous, he was of course very nervous. And then he said, kind of recognizing that it's a kind of life-changing moment, saying that what took us here won't take us there. Man, he was 3 years old, and he recognized something which we don't recognize at all. What took us here to the high level of welfare in Europe won't take us there, not even to the 2020, not to talk about 2050. It's something else which takes us. Either we do it ourselves or we will be taken. Many examples have been made today already how all the mobile devices we are using are not creating value for any European company except small margins for the operators and resellers, but the value is accumulated somewhere else. 25 applications in average in the smartphones on Europeans. Out of those, maximum 2 are European applications. And all we do is we use pipes. And it's something which needs to be changed a lot. And we need to ask, is a policy here for change or policy for stability and remaining a status quo? I took an holy grail of all the answers. Well, if you want to know the answer to all the questions you have, go to Google. They have computed all the answers to all the questions which you have not even given. And when I ask what makes Europe, then they have different offers. If I want to know what makes Europe digital, then I now know that Action 89 is what makes Europe digital. Once again, today we faced not only the Vodafone Institute report, but all the presentations we're talking about shifted reality, about a generation which expects and lives already in a different reality, which expects Europe to be one place with one, it's their home. They don't even call it Europe, it's just the place they live and where they want to be. And when there is a policy among saying that we have priorities, then we are lying to the generation who expect us to keep it as a priority. Action 89 is not a priority. Being one of 89 or even more actions does not make things change. I think it was you, Sinead. You had a dramatic story of 21st century, and your protagonist was Susan, was it? Sarah. Sarah was a protagonist who is living as a designer, as a photographer, as a co-worker. And what happens with Her Majesty Royal Revenue and Tax Department when she is trying to send out the invoice or declare her taxes or revenues, or when she needs to respond what were those expenses? The regulatory environment certainly is not supporting self-employed or co-working multiple. Their small brain will explode in a millisecond, faster than a fifth-generation mobile network. And my last quote belongs to my grandfather. When he discovered me as a small boy breaking nuts with a sledgehammer, he said that, well, young man, if only tool in your hand is a hammer, then all the problems look like a nail. We have been listening too often today about technology which can deliver and which can solve problems. When I listed what has been done in Estonia with the use of IT, I never said it was technology which enables that. It was users' need and demand, and focus on really solving the problems, also using technology for that. But it was never a technology per se. Technology is amplifier if the input to amplifier is noise, it amplifies just a lot of noise. So it's not about technological innovation, but process innovation and substantive approach to the issues we need to solve, and structural changes needed to be made. I think our policy requires 3 different separate tasks. Let's not mix the issues related to our supremacy or lost supremacy in technology leadership on a global scene. Technology development, research, development, science, and technological excellence needs to be a separate policy topic, while adoption of technology and mainstreaming the technology all over the fields of society need to be separated. Those were 3 quotes of mine. How little you can achieve when you don't try at all. What took us here won't take us there. And if only tool in your hand is a hammer, all the problems look like a nail. I wish we can also learn from those quotes, which I'm trying to use to reflect the current situation on the policymaking scene in Europe. Thank you so much.